Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on new Microsoft Teams features. My name is Michael Shagru. I'm president of Pace Technical. I'm going to try and walk you through some of the new features that have been released. There's been a bunch of things that have been released very recently within the last few months. And then there's some things probably over the course of the last year. If you're Teams users, you probably noticed some things changing, menus changing, and things like that. So we'll go over, some of those things as well. So hope to give everybody, some sort of takeaways today, whether you're newer to Teams or whether you've been using Teams quite a bit lately. So one thing I just want to say up front is most of this webinar is going to be a live demo. So, and I'm going to be basically doing a demo of a web meeting inside of another web meeting. And just to give everybody the heads up that not so sure the computer and or Teams and Zoom, like the idea of running two web meetings inside of each other at the same time. So I had noticed it made things a little bit slower, and in a couple of places it made things glitchy. So hopefully we won't have issues like that when we go through that today. Anyways, so I'll be your main host. I'm president of Pace Technical, joined as always by our VP of Technology, Noman Ahmed. And I've brought in a special guest as well today, Greg Reid from GoCo. And GoCo is basically our preferred telecom provider. They provide phone systems for us, several of our clients, and Greg is very, very well versed in that. But one of the things that we've seen new, it's not necessarily a new technology within Teams, but it's been gaining certainly a lot of momentum. And I've been getting asked the question more and more from people, hey, what about this using Teams as our phone system? So Greg is going to give us some info, kind of an overview of Teams voice, as well as they do some interesting things that builds on top, and they have some advantages that they provide in the way that they deliver this by kind of a hybrid, a combination of using the phone system functionality within Teams as well as phone lines from them. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Welcome. I appreciate it. I look forward to answering any questions you have today, and hopefully I can give some good insight. Thanks.
Yeah, great. So I'll be doing the first half, and then we're going to bring Greg in, and he's going to talk about Teams voice. So just real quick, though, a little bit about Pace. We've been in business now over 20 years, providing proactive managed IT services, managed security, managed cloud services. We're also an ISO 9001 business. And for the last 6 years, we've been a great place to work. This is kind of our service model. Again, if you don't know us or haven't had a conversation with us recently, certainly lots of things have changed, but in a nutshell, we provide all the basic services that pretty much any other, IT support provider is providing, all those reactive services like, your help desk and ticketing and managing the network updates, things like that. But most people end up working with us for the proactive side of our services, which includes our technology alignment, consulting, and our client success team. So not going to spend any more time on this right now, but if you haven't spoke to us in a while, we'd love to have a conversation with you. Just certainly let me know, and you'll have contact information for both myself and Greg at the end of the webinar. One of our mandates is to be kind of like a teaching organization. So we strive to have at least one or close to one webinar, educational based webinar every month. This is just a view of some of the recent ones that we have done. But anybody can access any of these recent webinars. I've also done a couple of webinars on Teams, both kind of basic functionality and then kind of second level functionality within Teams. So if you're very new to Teams, it might be a good idea to go back and look at those. If you're a client of Pace, we do provide training on a lot of the Microsoft apps within the Pace portal that you would have access to. But anyone on this call, for no cost, you can go onto our website, go to the media dropdown, you'll find a link there for webinars, and you can access any of these previous webinars that we have done. Lots of different topics in there, the cloud, several on cybersecurity. So go ahead and have a look there. Here's our agenda today. Just a quick, I'm going to do a quick overview of Teams, kind of give you a little bit of an insight into how we use Teams and what our structure looks like, maybe talk about a couple new features. Then I'm going to do a live demo of some of the new features that have been released, as well as a demo of Teams Voice. So this isn't going to be, I'm going to try and keep things under an hour today, including questions if we can. So not going to be going too in depth within Teams, but certainly if anybody has questions, you can always ask us either on this call today or separately. I'm happy to do a call and answer questions that anybody might have. So we will have a Q&A session at the end. So very quickly, I wanted to start out with a quick poll question. And I'm going to launch this poll right now, just to try and get an idea of how well-versed people on the call are with Teams. So are you brand new to Teams or somewhat new and still kind of learning, how it all works, how to collaborate and communicate? Or are you somewhere maybe in the middle? You're pretty well-versed. Maybe you've been using Teams and your organization uses Teams quite a bit. So you feel pretty well-versed. Maybe you don't know everything about it, but definitely know your way around. And then are you a power user, like you're adding tons of apps and other functionality, and you feel like you're going beyond a lot of the basics? So I can already see we've got some responses in here and kind of generally about what I might have expected. I'm going to just give a few more seconds here to let a couple of people respond. And then we'll have a quick look at the results. So I am just going to go ahead and end it right here, because I think probably any additional responses are probably going to be somewhat in line with what I'm already seeing here. So I'm just going to share these results with you right now. So seems like we're just about 50-50 of people that are pretty new, as well as some people that, feel fairly comfortable with Teams. So it's about what I would expect at this time, especially going through COVID. A lot of people got up and running and had to learn or almost forced to learn Teams very, very quickly. All right, so I'm going to stop that right there, and we are going to move on. So just super quick about Teams. Obviously, Teams is a collaboration app. You can communicate with others one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. Obviously, collaboration via just straight audio and or video. You can also share files, collaborate on files, multiple people working on the same files at the same time. You can also host meetings, webinars, and live events. We'll be focused mostly on the meetings portion of that as far as today goes. And you can also use Teams as a phone system, which Greg is going to be talking with you about. I'm actually just going to turn my video off right now because I have a feeling it is going to either get in the way of some slides or get in the way of the demo and cause problems later. So the interesting thing now about Teams, with the adoption of it becoming so high, it's basically now most people's #2 app. So when you start up in the morning, obviously for me anyways, first thing I do is open up my Outlook and my email and go through email first. But definitely secondary to that, it would be Teams. And I guess in general, my Teams is always running. I do have it running on I have the mobile app running on my phone. So I'm never really disconnected from Teams, but it would be the second place that I'm going to go to have a look into my activity feed, into some of the channels and teams that I'm a part of to see what activity is in there. And or if I need to do a call, meetings and things like that, all in our company anyways, run through Teams. But big numbers now. So as of July of this year, approximately 250 million daily users. So like that isn't even all the people that have Teams installed. That would be a much higher number, but 250 active daily users of Teams, and also approximately 80 million Teams voice users. So you can see on the voice end of things that that is climbing. It's still way behind some of the really big, let's call it voice over IP, voice providers, Ring Central, those ones. But it is gaining lots of ground just because so many people have been adapting to Microsoft 365. So just a quick look as far as, Teams is included with most Microsoft 365 plans. And obviously these have changed quite a bit over even just the last year. Microsoft, they continue to shuffle things around within these plans. So I'm just showing you the for business. I believe Teams comes with pretty much every enterprise plan, but the only one it doesn't come with is Microsoft 365 apps. So if you have a Microsoft 365 account and you're only using it to get access to the applications, then you don't have Teams. The reason for that is that the back end of Teams runs on SharePoint and OneDrive. So if you don't have a subscription to SharePoint and OneDrive, you can't run Teams, basically. So, and just one other, before we go any further, just a quick word about security and backups, only because it's so important, but we're still seeing some organizations out here that aren't adapting to these two things. First off, for security's sake, you have to be using two-factor authentication with your Microsoft 365 account, 100%. I mean, you should be using it for any kind of remote access to any kind of an app, web service, or whatnot for security purposes. But absolutely with Microsoft 365, as far as cyber criminals go, it has got to be, the number one or number two, probably number one targeted place for cyber criminals to go to try and infiltrate, phishing and whatnot, to try and gain access to one user's account, which is going to open up access to other users' accounts. So that has to be a must-have. If you don't have it in place, talk to whoever manages your IT or talk to us, and we can help you get that set up. Also, everybody should consider, if you're not doing it already, a backup, like a third-party backup solution for your Microsoft 365. Basically, I mean, most people think, oh, well, it's in Microsoft's cloud, so they're backing it up, right? Well, that's partly true, but Microsoft only has, I believe it's a 90-day retention on files and data within Microsoft 365. So any live data that's sitting there, you're totally fine. But if somebody deletes a file by mistake or deletes, a group or something else like that in Teams and whatnot, after 90 days, that information is gone for good. So it's a good idea. Some people have to follow compliance as far as backups and have a certain retention period on data. 100%. They're very reasonably priced to be able to back up data on Microsoft 365. So I highly recommend that. Okay, so I'm going to jump out of this screen, and I'm going to jump right over to Teams. So, and we're just going to have a quick look around Teams just in general, especially, just for some people that are new, and maybe a refresher for people even that have been using Teams. So obviously this is Teams along the left here, and I'm only going to be demoing the desktop application today. So the main menu of Teams is along here on the left. The first thing is your activity feed, which is basically just showing you any kind of activity that you're associated with, whether it's a chat activity in a team that you belong to or a group that you belong to, somebody mentions your name somewhere. You have this little drop down here. If you just wanted to have a look at all of your activity, what you've done yourself, you could click there. But I think most people just want to use this for the feed. You can also filter things in here. Like if I just wanted to see everything from Luke, I could just click on the filter button, type Luke. Some of these things are handy, especially if you have a giant feed and you're trying to parse through and look for something really quickly. You also have a little menu here for filtering. You could look at unread messages, mentions, other ways to quickly look for things. And then, of course, right here is your settings, and this is just the general settings within Teams. There's another place that I'll show you that in a minute. So that's basically the activity feed. But I think where most people are going to, be a part of and participate in Teams is going to be chat and in the Teams section. So I'll say even for myself, I'm probably at least 50%, maybe even more than 50% of my time is just in chat, whether that's individual, calls and video calls with my team members or other people, within the company. Definitely doing that here. But within chat, obviously one-to-one, you can create groups very easily. If I wanted to do one, I could just click on the this little icon here to create a new message. I could start typing in a couple of team members' names. I don't think I have a group going with them yet. And if I come down here and just start the chat by saying hi, now it's going to give me some other options up here. I can come up here, I can rename this group, call it cool people or whatever you might want to call it, and save that. And now you can see it shows up in my feed here as cool people. But I have one, I use it for my sales and marketing team. We have some other teams that will use these things for as well. But just in chat as well, over here on the right, I can do a video call individually with an individual or a group, an audio call, a couple of other options here if I want to share screen or add other participants into this particular chat. Also within chat, I can share files with the group, and with most groups and chats, I'll have a lot more files than this in here, but you can easily just click the share button, upload files to share, in an individual chat with a person or with a group or whatnot. Also in here, you can add out additional things above the top here. You can add in individual applications, or if there's a particular file that you wanted to pin up on the top, like even the file that I have shared in here, I could pin that to the top, or I could click on Word or Excel and choose a Word or Excel file to share up at the top of the screen. If it's something that you and an individual or a group of people are referencing very often, it's pretty handy to have those things, up front. Like our sales and marketing team, we have it fairly well built out, and we have a lot of things up here at the top. So yeah, that was basically everything that I wanted to show, with the exception of one other thing. So next to everyone that you're going to have within your chat, there's a little icon here next to the individual user. So once I click on someone, so this is Luke here, you can see along the top now, I have a little thing here called organization, and a lot of people either don't use this or don't know how it works. Basically, it's an employee, or like a chart of employees, basically, diagram that is set up within Active Directory. It's set up within the Active Directory of Windows. And if you do have it set up in here, it does transfer over into Teams. So that when you click on somebody, you can see the hierarchy of everything in the organization associated with them. So if I click here on Shale, who's our CEO, you can see all the reports underneath him, as well as if there's any other managers, I can click on that as well and expand that out. So it's maybe one feature that you may or may not have a use for if you're a larger organization and you want it, have an organizational chart, or have the ability for people to see who somebody reports to. This could be useful information for you. Let's move off of chat down to Teams. as you can see, somebody just sent me a chat message. Obviously, if you've used Teams at all, you know that these little notifications appear. So Teams is probably the other place where people are going to live the most, obviously within Teams. And Teams itself is, Teams are basically generally functional areas of your business. And then inside of each Teams, there is something called channels. And channels is the different kind of topics of discussion or sub-departments or things like that of functional areas. So just to give you a general idea of how we set things up, and we've like a lot of people, started out with Teams and just started randomly creating teams. And then at one point in time, we took a look at it and said, wow, this has gotten really messy, and basically restructured things. So you can see we have our one main PACE technical team, which is a public group, and everybody in our company is a part of that. But we have our leadership teams, our management executive, and our owners teams. And then we have departments. Now, this is only showing all the teams that I'm a member of, and I'm not a member of every single team in our organization. So, but these are the departments that I am a part of. But we like the idea of trying to have really logical labels. So we have a leadership, we have departments, and then we have committees. So we have several committees within our company. We make these public within the organization so that anybody can join these. So we have our one separate team just for the chairs of all our committees. But I'm a part of our social committee, our ISO committee, and also our innovation committee. Obviously, we have one for our newsletter and whatnot. And then I have a test team generated here. Yeah, so it's pretty simple to create a team or to join a team. If you just come down here to the bottom, just to show you what that looks like. If I come here to create a team, once I click on it, I can either create something from scratch, or I can create from a group or kind of clone another team that already is in existence. This is a new feature. It's not brand new, but probably within within the last 6 months to a year, that you can create a team from a template. So there's some interesting ones in here, and there's a whole bunch of them in here, managed from a project, a special event, or things like that. So just to show you what happens, if I click on this, it gives you a preview of everything that it's in the template that it's going to pre-set up. So it already comes out of the box with 4 channels as well as 6 apps. Now, you do need to have access to these apps, and these apps still will need to be set up individually after you launch this. Yeah, I thought these things are kind of interesting. It could be useful for some. So that's the project management one. You can see the one for managing event obviously has several more channels already set up, and a whole bunch of apps also that are suggested to use within the thing. Once you do get this set up, you can go back in and customize. You can delete channels if you don't need them, or add others, rename, etc. Just the way you would any other one. But I'm just going to come back here and say I'm going to create something from scratch. Obviously, you have the option to make it private. So a private group or team, you have to invite specific people to it. Public makes it available. Anybody in your organization can join a public group, or organization-wide. Automatically, anybody that's within your team's installation will automatically be made a part of that team. So as an example, our PACE Technical is an org-wide team, so everybody in the company is a part of that. All the the departments and leadership teams, these are all private, and all of our committees are public. So, and you can see here any public committees that I'm not a part of will also show up here. So I could join any of these individual committees, or if there was other public teams that existed, I can join them very easily right here. So I'm just going to jump into the test team here. So I have a meeting already running in here, which I'll jump into in just a minute. But once you're in, so yeah, there's teams and then there's channels. So just under teams, if I wanted to come in There's obviously a little 3-dot menu next to every team. These are the options I have. I can come in and manage the team. I could see all the members. I could add members from here, delete members, change their permission levels, look at pending requests of people that I've sent invites to, look at all the channels, change settings, including the picture, permissions, and things like that. There's also an analytics that shows, how many meetings and things like that, how many active users, some other maybe interesting things in there, the apps that are available to this team. And then the last thing is if you wanted to add particular tags to identify a particular group. So underneath all these teams are channels. So as soon as you start a new team, automatically by default, every team is going to have a channel called general. So you don't have to have any more channels than just the one if you don't want to, but that one comes just out of the box. And just in the instance of time, I'm just going to now keep going here. Obviously the calendar functionality, which is syncing up with your calendar in Outlook. But you can start a new meeting from here, schedule a new meeting. Options are up here as well. Calls, if you had, you can easily just call, voice or video call to anybody in your organization. If you had the voice functionality, a little dial pad would show up here and you'd be able to make, outbound calls as well. Just real quick on the files tab here. So this is all the files that I have access to within our Teams instance. But a handy thing here is the recent file option, just in case you're looking for something that you either posted or somebody shared with you recently, you want to find it quickly, you can just jump in here. A few other things on the menu down here, mainly associated with apps. Real quick across the top, just wanted to show you one thing. If you type a / in here, it gives you a whole bunch of functionality that you can look to search activities, find a person, join a meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So something that you can play around with. And then across the top over here, the settings. I'm sure people have looked through the settings, but a lot of general settings in here. One that some people may or may not know about, and this was something that was kind of a bee in my bonnet. Anytime I want to open up an application or a file, whether it's a Word file, an Excel file, or something like that, I like to open it in the desktop app, for the extra functionality. I've noticed occasionally, some small glitches, within the functionality when I run the open up a file within Teams. So you can change the default of how these file opens, whether it's PowerPoint, Word, and Excel files. So you can by default have it open up in the desktop app if you prefer that, or if you prefer it to open in Teams or a browser, you can change all that here. But that's one setting that a lot of people may or may not know about. I'm not going to go through all these individual, like if you want to see some specifics on all these, you can see it all in my other Teams webinars, or you can certainly ask me after the call. But I do have a Teams demo meeting going. First, I did want to show just when you are creating a new meeting within calendar here. So I can both schedule a meeting and that'll open up just a standard window. There's a few new options in here now. You can see response options and registration. So if I wanted to, I can disallow forwarding. Certainly I want to request responses, but if it was just a meeting and I didn't want anybody except for the people that I'm inviting to the meeting, I can untick this box so it won't allow anyone to forward this meeting to anybody else, and it'll just be restricted to whoever I'm inviting in this particular meeting. This is kind of it's not brand new feature, but a newer feature where you can require registration. A lot of this has to do with the webinars and live events, which will happen by default. But now, in hindsight, thinking about this, where we're at right now with COVID, you know, a lot of companies that are still fully remote and some coming into the office part-time. If you're having like a larger meeting or a company-wide meeting, you might want to know if people are going to be in the office or attending remotely. So you can create a registration form that is required. So let's just say I choose this option and say that I want people to register, and I can click here now to view the registration form, just to give you an idea of what this looks like. You'd be going through a similar process if you were setting up a webinar. But you might think, well, I mean, I already know these people, so do they really need to sign their name? Well, if you have a larger meeting, you want to get an idea of how many people are attending. Maybe you're ordering lunch for people. You want to know who's going to be in the office, who's going to be attending remotely. So having people fill in this information is interesting. But then you can also add in a field. You can make it a custom question. Let's say you were doing this for, I don't know, a particular, you're ordering in lunch. You need to know if somebody has allergies, or you have a couple of item options for lunch or something like that. If it was for a webinar, you might want to add in some of these other things, like what industry, what job title these people are in, what organization, and things like that. So it's basically, when you're setting up a webinar, a very, very similar form that you're going to fill out. But I'm just going to close this and discard it. And if I was to go to set up a webinar, it's automatically going to assume that we're going to have the registration form. So this is already in here, and it already is selecting for everybody on there. I'm not really going to go through webinars. Maybe in another webinar, I can demo that functionality for you, but I'll do that at another time. So I'm just going to discard that. I'm going to go back into my calendar now, and I'm going to join in to my team. But actually, before that, I'm just going to show you one other thing within Outlook. When you go to schedule a team and make something a Teams meeting. So this is, I've basically just started a calendar appointment in Outlook. So once you do click and make it a Teams meeting, you do get an extra settings option, which has this link to all the meeting options, which you can record. I'll just show you what that looks like here quickly when this opens up. So record automatically is a newer feature within meetings. I could tick this and automatically record the meeting, or once the meeting starts, you can click the record meeting as well. But some of the other options that have come out, a while back, allowing users to bypass the lobby, etc. So I'm just going to close on that, and then also this little menu about the allowing forwarding and requesting responses and things like that. Also, that same functionality exists even if you're setting up a Teams meeting in Outlook. So I'm going to just discard that, and I'm going to jump in and join this meeting to show you a few new features within meetings itself. So I'm going to join into this meeting. And I believe all the other members are already here because the meeting has been started. That's great. Hey, everybody. So already first, when I look at this, I'm looking, one thing is sort of sticking out at me. I see Luke here, who's calling in on a mobile phone. So there's a newer feature. I believe I can see it right here with this little 3-dot menu. And it's called fit to frame, because I don't like the way this black looks on the outsides of his picture. So I'm going to click fit to frame, and we are going to see in just a second, and hopefully it will work here. Let me try one more time. There we go. So it gets rid of, this is just one of the new features. Wow, look at that. It's a giant Luke. But it gets rid of those annoying black bars on the sides, just in case you didn't want that. So quick thing, if I look at the participants list, I'm not sure if really much has changed generally in here. But one thing it can do, and this is a newer feature, that you can lock the meeting. So if I click this here, only the people that are in the meeting already right now, nobody else would be able to participate in the meeting. But I can also, download the attendee list and manage permissions of the participants in here as well. So I'm going to actually ask a couple of people to raise their hands. I believe this is where this functionality exists. So a few people have raised their hands, and I'm like, okay, everybody's raised their hands. Enough of that already. I just want everybody to lower their hands. So another new feature in here, if you are using the raise hand features, I can just click here, lower all hands, and metamorpho. Everybody's hands are also lowered. If ever there's an option in here, it's not showing right now because everybody's already muted, but if a couple of people there maybe unmute, I have this little feature here now. I'm already hearing echo, so I'm going to mute all so I can mute everybody if maybe everybody's talking at once and I'm getting very fed up with that. I can just go ahead and mute everybody. Individually, they can go back in and unmute themselves. So I'm going to jump in now and share my screen. So just to show a couple of new features in here. So obviously, if you've been sharing your screen, you notice that this change, it used to be along the bottom. Now it's got this new feature here across the side. I can include computer sound here. I can change modes, but I'll show you what these look like in a second. I can share the whole screen or just the window. Then there's PowerPoint Live down here as well, which we'll get to in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and share. I had something open. I'm hoping it might show. Let me just see if this actually works. Okay, so it does. So this is coming up. So you have to come up here to get some additional options. Put your mouse all the way to the top of the screen. There's a little pin button here. I'm going to pin it. But these are a few new features. There's the first one, which is standout mode. So you can see in the small window that's opening here. So this is the one, the weather, I like to call it the weatherman one. So that's I put the weather app up. You can see we've got this cold front coming in from North Bay. So that's a fun one to use. One of the new view features. Then there's this one, which is basically side by side. So if you were on the other end of this meeting, you would see this small window that you can see here. That would be full screen. But right now it's just giving me an idea of what everybody can see. And the last one, this one is called reporter mode, kind of like the screen that you see when you're watching the news. Also from here, yeah, I can include or disinclude the computer sound. So I'm just going to stop presenting this one just for a moment. And the next thing I wanted to show was the whiteboard, because there's also a whole bunch of new features within the whiteboard. I'm going to click that really quickly here and pull it up. And we'll see once this loads. Taking a couple of extra seconds just because, again, we're doing a web meeting within a web meeting. And I think it's just about to finally load for us now. Here we go. So first thing is this menu here is new. I mean, before the notes and text and, the pen feature and highlighting feature, those were all there before. But some new things that have come in, the ability to, add shapes into your whiteboard, reactions. If, other team members really like something, they can, put the thumbs up in here. That's also kind of a new feature. You can add images and place images on the screen now. But another cool feature is templates. So if you wanted to go, let's for instance, brainstorming templates. If I click on this first one here and drop it into the screen, it's going to drop in kind of a formatted background as well as like some sticky notes, kind of to get the meeting started. If I can, oops, a little bit of a delay in moving everything, but hopefully you get the idea. I've got these sticky notes that, if I wanted to write, text in these, as well as, different themes and things like that. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep moving along. But if you were to use the whiteboard feature, it would be really cool if at the end of a meeting, it saved a copy of this, but it doesn't necessarily do that. So you can come up to the top here. Is it there or is it? It's up here, I believe. Yes, once you click on this little settings icon, when you're in Whiteboard, you can export this as an image once you're done, marking up your whiteboard if you wanted it for later reference, and then just have somebody load it into your team or into your chat or whatnot. So I'm going to figure out how to exit out of here. And I can't remember exactly. Oh, there we go. Just click stop presenting here at the top, and that will get rid of the whiteboard. So one other feature that's newer, a lot of people may or may not be using it, is the PowerPoint Live feature. So I'm just going to demo that for you quickly. And I'm just going to pull up this. So PowerPoint Live, this is going to pull up some recent files that I already have saved within Teams for quick access, but I could also come down and open up a PowerPoint file from my computer as well. So I'm just going to click on this one here and go ahead and share the screen, because there's some cool features that come up within PowerPoint Live. Again, it takes a few seconds for it to launch and go. So here it is. It automatically is going to open up in presenter view. So it'll show any kind of notes that you might have along the side here. I don't like presenter view, so I'm just going to hide presenter view so that it shows a little bit larger for me here. But you can click through the slides and go along here as you like. You can show a grid view if you want to get quickly to a particular slide, and then it'll open up that there. Some more actions that you can do. You can view the slides. Now, this is only going to do it for the individual that's looking. So any individual can change this to high contrast. So if I click this button, it basically just does a black background on all the slides to make the text really pop out. Also, another feature is that an individual can translate the slide. So let's say you have a meeting with 10 people, but one person is a French-speaking person, maybe from Quebec or France or from wherever, and they would rather see the text in French. So you can come here, click on the translate, and now it'll go through and it'll translate. Now it can't translate anything that's in an image, but any text that is written within within the slides will automatically translate into whatever language you want there. So a couple of other cool features. There's a new laser pointer, so I can highlight things with the laser, and you can see, and then in a couple of seconds, it just sort of disappears. But I also have features like a pen feature, so I can circle things. If I click on it again, I could change the color, make it thicker. Same thing with the highlighter, change the color, make it thicker as well. So if I'm on the highlighter, highlight certain things. And then there's the eraser, which I can click the eraser and just come up on here and wipe things. Or if I click the eraser twice, it gives me the option to erase everything on the screen. I did want to demo breakout rooms, but I'm way over time. So I may actually have to do that at another time. But the breakout room feature is here. I'm just going to show you really quickly how it works. You come in here, you can generate, up to, I think it's 50 rooms if you needed to. You can automatically choose where people go, or manually choose where people go, and then create the rooms. If I was to do that quickly now, I guess really quickly, I'll show you. I won't go too far into this, but just to give you a general idea, because probably a lot of people haven't used breakout rooms, or maybe you have. It's really simple to use. So it gives me this little menu. So the rooms, even though I've created them, they haven't been activated yet. I'd have to click this open button. So as you can see, it already shows me who's been assigned to what room. Once I click open, all the people will automatically go into these rooms. Once they're in a room, it acts just like any other Teams meeting. So people can share content, they can have their video and audio on, they could share files, text, everything just like any other Teams meeting. But maybe I'll have to go into greater depth about that at another time. But you can move people around to rooms, pull people out of rooms. I can go in and visit a room, and then later, close all the rooms off. So I'll apologize. I probably went a little bit too far, but I did want to get to Greg because I think it's important what he is going to show us as far as Teams voice. Like I said, any other questions that you might have in individual teams, certainly ask them now, or you can email me after. So I'm going to say goodbye to my team right now. I'm going to leave this meeting, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm
Michael,
going to,
Michael,
yes.
it's Greg Reid. Before you stop sharing, can you go to your Microsoft Calendar and click on the meeting we had yesterday? I just wanted to show the audience here, what that looks like. I've only got, I guess, about 10 minutes here, and I want to be real clear. So if you go back to our meeting on Wednesday and you open that up.
Yes.
So hi, this is Greg Reid, and what I wanted to make sure that when you talk about direct routing and being able to provide public switch telephone network access, when you don't have to, if you're bringing people into a meeting, they don't have to have Teams per se, because they're able to click and join. But you'll also notice it also is going to provide a call-in audio. So if someone's computer is not set up, or they're only joining the meeting, let's say they're remote and they don't have, they're just using a cell phone or whatever, they're able to come into the meeting. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that automatically, when you have Teams direct routing and we work with your tenant and get it set up, that automatically gets put into the body of the email. So all the individual would need to do when they're invited, obviously they accept the invite, and then they open it up and they just click on join the meeting, right? And they're able to be right into the meeting. If again they don't have audio capabilities on their computer, they would dial in using a phone or whatever. So your prospects, your clients, people outside of your organization, there's no worry about, hey, what if they don't have Teams?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you did want to have a meeting and you wanted to provide people with a way to call in and dial in just for audio, you do need to have the voice capability set up within Teams to offer a phone number. So great. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and open it up to you. So go right ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to share. I'm not able to share yet. Could you provide the option for me to be able to share? I'm trying to share the screen. I think you still have it closed off.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's still disabled for me to screen share. You'd lock that down.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry. Try that again right now. Thought I had that set up before.
I'm just trying to move this bar. Hold on a second here.
Whoa.
Whoops. Sorry.
Minor technical difficulties.
No, I'm just grabbing the right screen there. Sorry about that. what I did was I closed off what I wanted to share with everyone. That's not
Okay.
good. Apologize for that. Hold on one second. While I'm just getting this up, everyone, one of the things that I wanted to be able to also discuss is, again, a little bit about who GoCo is. While it may be a new name for people, it's not a new company, and I'll be explaining a little bit about that, and then quickly getting into the whole presentation about Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, so, and just so everybody knows, GoCo, we use them for our, phone systems here, very knowledgeable, and they have, they're not just focused on only one technology. So whether it's Teams, whether it's standard voice over IP, they work with many of the major brands. So we've had great success in working with them within our phone systems, works very well, and several of our clients also use them.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, so now that I've got that ready to go, let me just get back to here and share.
All right.
There we go. Sorry about that. Appreciate it. Again, as I was saying, GoCo, G-O-C-O, is an organization that we're actually a department, or if you will, a company that is owned now by TELUS, and the organization itself is come together with 6 other organizations. So as I said, while GoCo may be a new brand name, the organizations you see here have been around for 15 and 20 years. The people like BroadConnect, which I'm originally from, has been in the telecommunications and the telephone business really for 20 years with voice over IP solutions and traditional telephone systems. We are an Avaya IP Office partner and Avaya Bot Nortel. So we are definitely a telephone company, an ISP as well. I'm going to point out Radiant as well because it'll come up a little bit. Radiant is one of the software-defined wide area network organizations that are one of the leading in the industry as well. And all these 6 companies came together to form GoCo, and we're part of TELUS. We are very focused on what we do, and this is why I think it's a good opportunity for us to work with Pace, because we're augmenting for their clients what they're doing, and they're augmenting for our clients some of the things that they do. So, for example, while we can do managed networks, that's the external connectivity to the world, if you will, and what obviously Pace and with their managed IT services are able to help, internally with all the things needed IT, and we have in some cases even helped some of their clients with internet-only information. Where I'm going to spend most of my time today is talking about the managed unified communications. As Michael had stated, Microsoft platform is not the only platform we have. We have one other platform, which is the Cisco WebEx platform. But we're very focused on what we do. So if we are brought in by Pace to, consider telephony for your organization, we're going to try to understand, where your needs are, where you're going, and be able to make sure we can pick or work with you to the right solution to do that. One of the great things about the partnership we do have is if Microsoft Teams direct routing is something that makes sense for you, there are some other licenses that you would require, and Pace can help you with those as well. Okay. But those 3 pillars of unified communications, managed network services, managed security are all the things that are very important when you're looking at cloud-based solutions or IP PBX cloud-based communication, unified communications. Okay. Our organization is over 330 people and growing across Canada. And again, that's the people within, obviously, our organization. And again, we're part of the TELUS organization. We specifically have over 4,500 customers. And of those customers, they're using 80,000 what we call UC or Unified Communication Seats users, individual users using telephony and or SIP trunking, and also 30,000 managed sites. And that would come through the obviously software-defined managed area network, if you will. here quickly are some of the organizations. I throw this slide up to hopefully give you a comfort level that we've been in business for years. We were doing business with some of the largest organizations in Canada. We are a Canadian company, by the way. So in Canada, however, 75% of our business is small to medium business. So if you're looking at this saying, wait a minute, Greg, I'm 25 employees, or I'm 50 employees, or I'm 150, 250 employees. These are all huge companies. That's correct. But 75% of the organizations we deal with are that 25 to about 200 user, 200 employee companies. Okay. Let's get right into the direct routing. So one of the things that if you are using Teams today, but aren't using or don't have plans for Microsoft calling plans, or haven't set up the telephony part, you cannot make an external phone call to a PSTN number, public switched telephone network, a cell phone, your home phone, another company's phone. Now you can directly invite them through the URL so that they can join meetings. But however, as you saw, if you don't have that set up, you can't have an audio bridge you'd have to have a separate audio bridge for them to call in instead of being all in one. So again, what we do, direct routing, is we're providing and using the Microsoft certified what's called a session border controller in our data centers, in our centers across Canada, and we're helping connect that with you and with Microsoft. We are helping, making sure that we provide a simplified way to provide that extra key for unified communications. I think one of the things that always impressed me is when I see Michael showing me, and I've learned something new today, Michael, by the way, something new in Teams, is just how powerful a platform Teams is for unified communications, and a tool to work not only within your organizations, but externally, to be able to pull in people quickly and help to have decisions made, great decisions made quickly within your organization, and even to your external partners by being able to pull them in. Okay.
So super quickly,
Yep.
yeah, because I'm fascinated by what you guys are doing with Teams. But the interesting thing, so you can buy, voice lines and things like that through Microsoft if you want.
Right.
You wouldn't have to go through somebody like GoCo. But when Greg is talking about direct routing, that means that GoCo would actually provide the phone lines. And there's some advantages to using a provider like him for the phone lines versus running it and just buying phone lines and phone service through Microsoft. So that's what he means when he's talking about direct routing. You can have the phone system functionality within Teams, but utilize their lines, and he'll talk to you about that.
So thanks, Michael. So one of the things that that if you were to and you're working with Microsoft, you would have to have either your company's IT or someone like Pace be able to do things like setting up the PowerShells, the commands, the scripting to work with the tenants within your Microsoft Teams environment, and or set up any auto attendant queues or call queues. You still need to purchase call plans, and that's where we come in, because there'd be no additional cost, if you will, when you take a look at the overall amount of money that you're spending. You won't have to get dial plans through Microsoft. Again, we are the ISP, we are the telephony company, so we're able to provide that with you, and we do all these other things for you as well to get things set up. So we become a partner in setting those things up for you. One of the things I wanted to be able to show you, if you are using Teams today and you clicked on calls, you probably have a grayed out where you don't have the dial pad to make external calls. When you're trying to get a hold of people internally, yes, you're using the chat feature, and you can dial PC to PC in being able to have a conversation with them. But when you want to dial outside the organization, unless you have some type of dial plans or purchase plans, you don't have this. The other component, if you don't have it's set up, the phone app and everything set up properly, is to have a true telephony or telephone system like you have today, to be able to, if someone takes a call, to be able to put it on hold, transfer, and all those things. That's all part of what also gets set up for you. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that makes sense is that I know I'm going through these slides quickly, but you want the traditional telephony solutions that you have today, and we help make sure that we get those set up for you, because you need to do that. That's not something Microsoft is going to do for you. It's there, and that's where you have Pace as well to be able to help you do that. One of the key factors is most organizations today, while they'd like to be able to get away from equipment they don't need, like traditional desktop telephones, and be able to use their laptops, PCs, or cell phones, there's still maybe certain people in organizations today that you have that will need or want the traditional telephone as well. There's going to be meeting rooms and boardrooms that you're going to want to use if you're going to use the collaboration tools of Teams. And so those telephony devices are also things that have to be compatible with Teams. And we have those, and we have them available, and can be setting them up or working through that to make sure that you have all of the devices that you need. This is a little bit about what I'm talking about. When you have something, and every once in a while, Microsoft has a hiccup as well. But if it were, and say Exchange went down or something went down, if you're on even their telephony call plans, you wouldn't be able to make a call. Well, because we have off-net survivability and we can put things together, we can do call redirect or DID redirect, so that while things are coming back online, at least you'll still be able to communicate telephony-wise through that. Again, because we're putting the session border controllers, in our cloud to be able to switch that out very quickly.
Right. If I could just comment there, like that's one of the big advantages that I saw potentially using the direct routing service that you have, is that if Microsoft did go down, it doesn't matter because you're controlling the phone service and the phone lines. So
Exactly.
the people would still be able to make calls even if Microsoft went down.
And be more than happy if you want to go through PACE to ask them about what we're doing with software-defined wide area networks, or even proper backup, because we are an ISP, and we have many organizations that even have an LTE backup to the cloud in case their lines get cut up. Okay. It's one of the things that's important to understand is that if you have certain Microsoft licenses today, then I talked about augmenting it with other licenses from Microsoft, so that the telephony portion, whether you're using calling plans from Microsoft or take a look at our direct routing, you'll need to make sure that you have those components. For example, if you use all-in-one, the E5 has a lot more capabilities, everything that has all the components and everything you need, and we can add, we can add the direct routing component to it. But if you're using an E3 or other type of licenses, then you're going to want to have, and you can again work through PACE, so they can help you get the Microsoft phone system app, and if where it's needed, the Microsoft audio conferencing app. So not every one of your users, for example, may need to have telephony capabilities. So they would never be set up with direct routing. Even if they're set up with direct routing and to make and receive phone calls, they may never need to do audio conferencing or to be able to do content sharing. So you wouldn't need to add that at that time. There are also meeting room licenses and common phone area licenses for Microsoft, because they don't need those, like a courtesy phone or even a boardroom phone won't need all the applications that are available in E5 or E3 or even Business Basic or Business Standard phone apps. So again, we would work with your organizations with PACE to make sure we understand what Microsoft licenses do you have today, and what if any needs to be augmented. How do you get into Microsoft to start with, and certainly PACE can help you make sure you get those licenses. As Michael referred to, Microsoft continues to augment their product and/or make changes as to help the business community. So there are a lot of people when they're first starting getting Business Basic, which was premium before, it's called Basic or Standard, and now there's also a Business Voice that they could be getting. This is for smaller users under 300. But if you have that, or you need to, or go to get that, we're suggesting that through the direct routing, you wouldn't buy or purchase any Microsoft calling plans. We would be providing that for you. Okay. One of the key things that I'll just wrap up quickly. One of the key things that's become very important for organizations that we're working with is our data centers are in Canada. You're working with the Microsoft data centers that are in Canada, so your data is going to stay in Canada. We're going to make sure that we help integrate and deploy what is required, do all the PowerShell commands and scripting. It is not hugely complicated, but it does time consuming, and that's something Microsoft is not going to do for you, as well as setting up auto attendance and call queues. The biggest opportunity that you have when you take a look at going to Teams is if you really want it to be a truly collaboration tool, is to, how do you use that tool, have that that client that you saw showing to be that one client that you're using across the board. You're not going to a different client for some other voice over IP solution, or if you're trying to work more remotely, that they have everything there available to them, ready to go on their desktop or laptop. Okay, that's why people are coming to GoCo. That's why people are continuing to look at Teams and putting in the capabilities of that outside calling, outside collaboration opportunity with voice. Okay. Thank you. Again, we be more than happy to any questions you want to direct through PACE is to have this opportunity to speak to you more about it, and actually do a demo, a live demo for you to show you some of those things that is important for this. So Shale and Mike, thank you very much for inviting me. I hope that this was helpful in piquing your interest, and now you know where you can go to get more information if you want to consider it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And now, if I know we've gone way over on time already. Thank you to everybody that stuck with us. We will be making the recording available after, so if anybody wanted to see content, go back through it or whatnot. But Greg, just one quick question. So as far as the phone system functionality within Microsoft Teams, if somebody's coming from another like more traditional style phone system or voice over IP system, are they going to be losing out on anything if they were to switch to Teams and using that for their phone system?
No, they won't, and that's a good question. But one of the things that that they'll find quickly is Microsoft is not a telephony company, so there are some things that it's a great telephone system. But if you want to take a look at some of the other things, like a contact call center, they don't have a contact call center. They don't have integration to, say, your overhead paging system. That's what we do. We marry that together. So that's one more component when you are involving a ISP and a telephony organization like GoCo, so they will not miss anything. There's nothing that they would have today as the transition comes in that they would miss, and actually would augment more.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Greg. And to anybody else, let me just see if I can. Do I still have my, there we go. Oops, there. Just if anybody needed contact information, either for us at PACE or for Greg, you can see it up on the screen there now. If you had any other questions about Teams voice and telephony in general, Greg is very knowledgeable. Get in touch with him. Any other questions about Teams, certainly you can get in touch with me. I don't see any questions down in the Q&A, so I'll assume we were extremely thorough, or we just went way over in time, which we actually did, which is my fault, but that's whatever. That happens in showbiz, people. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And if anybody thinks of any other questions afterwards, you can just send me an email to sales@pacetechnical or mike@pacetechnical.com. Outside of that, thank you, Greg. Everybody else, have a great day.
Thank you very much.